baby daddy, the fine bitches. Hell. Hello, bitches. We are back at it again. And this is your girl, Alex.
And I'm Mary.
And this is Lawyering Out Loud. We are back again in the ghetto. New president, new episode. And this is your favorite podcast about life, lawyering, and
All the things we're mad about.
today, how you doing, Mary?
Girl, that's a loaded question that we're going to be asking from now on.
You're never well.
First of all, it's only been what, 10 days? 10 days. Girl, why did January feel like the longest January ever? I just, girl, I'm not well. Thankfully, I saw Gil yesterday or 2 days
Who's
ago.
Gail? Tell the people.
My therapist.
Our girl.
Our girl that keeps us sane because it's not giving. It was giving white refrigerator. It was giving let's find you a proper home.
Yeah. Well, if Trump has his way, we will have a proper home outside of these United States. So
Your girl's already applying for her Dominican citizenship. So I'm not trying to wait and find out. Your girl is gone. Girl, how are you doing?
as you know, I've been sick as a dog. I'm
Right.
still sick today. So here I am doing the thing I said I was not gonna do, coming to y'all with no eyebrows,
But you got eyebrows
no
though.
makeup. So but we're doing the thing. But as you know, and I've shared this on this podcast before, I am somebody that struggled with a lot of health issues. And January has just been one of these months. And I think, like, for self preservation reasons, I've been telling myself, I'm not letting this get to me. I don't care about what this man does. Clearly, this is what y'all wanted. But I have never been, the last time I was this sick was the week leading up to the election that Joe Biden won, because it was like I had been through so much in the last 4 years that everything was riding on that election, and my body just gave up. And this last 2 weeks, we didn't record, and it's 100% because I could not get myself together. Like today, I'm having a really nasty psoriasis flare up on my face. That's why I can't even put makeup on, even if I wanted to. But I just can't. I just couldn't get it together today and this past week. So clearly, the fuck shit y'all putting us through is getting to me. And I told y'all I didn't like the lady, but y'all gotta do what y'all had to do. But y'all ain't listen to me. And here we are with no lady and bullshit.
That part. Also, I think it's so funny because you say one thing and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna let this get to me, and you're like, I'm done with immigration. I'm not gonna practice immigration under this administration. And I haven't seen you work this hard, and I don't know how. Girl, you spent a week with me, and it was the best week ever. And every day you were getting a new phone call from a new person needing help, and you couldn't turn them away. I think out of five that called you, you turned away like one or two, and that was only because you were like, "Oh, another attorney can handle it." But other than that, you took it on, and I think that just shows how personal this work is for people like you and I. That like we can't separate it,
Yeah.
even though we try to. We really, really do try to.
Yeah. But for clarification, though, I didn't take any new clients, and the people that I did take is
Right, right,
were asking questions or people who had issues that didn't require like a whole case or anything like that. But
or previous clients that still have stuff going on.
no, yeah, I've still been working my ass off because y'all didn't listen to me when I told y'all this man was a demon.
Ma'am, First of all,
No,
can we talk about the fact that we dropped an episode on election day where we were looking a hot mess and we just couldn't. We were like, this is what they're gonna get.
I'm still looking a hot mess, though. I really can't laugh about it. I look the exact same, if not worse, than I'd done election night. Because at least on election night, psoriasis wasn't peeling off the first layer of my
Oh,
epidermis or whatever the fuck it's called, that outer layer of your skin. You know, it's been a minute since my biology days. So you smart folk don't come over here and be like, that's not the epidermis, that's the dysdermis or whatever dermis. I don't care.
not
I don't care. I don't care.
girl, I only you called me. We said we were gonna do this at 9 a.m. But I've been having really bad back pain since yesterday.
That's the
I've
weight of carrying this week,
never,
child.
never felt this way. Like I felt nauseous. The moment the pain started, I felt nauseous. I was like, what the hell is this? And then of course I Googled it and they're like, as a woman, you could be having a heart attack. So I'm like, great, let me call 911. I didn't call 911.
A heart
But
attack?
yeah, it
No,
was
honestly, it's probably just the stress from the entire week.
yeah.
It's
No, for sure. I hate that, when we talked about the week, I told you that ICE has been in our courthouse, has been grabbing clients, has been grabbing alleged victims just as well. So we're all feeling the bullshit of this administration.
correct.
And like you said, just trying to move forward.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's a good transition into what I'm mad about this week. Um, because what I'm mad about this week is what I've been mad about for a very long time. But it's also it's such a nuanced kind of anger. So let me just say what I'm mad about is Donald Trump sending the letter to Netanyahu saying, I want you to be the first foreign official that I host in the White House, and completely like being oblivious to the plight of Palestinians.
Is it oblivious?
No, he's not oblivious. However, I think to my point, I'm going to pretend like it's oblivion, but we know it's not, because the fact that such a large group of people voted for Trump, um, because of how displeased they were with the Biden administration's handling of Palestine, and then to find folks to be in the same, if not worse, predicament, it's disheartening. And it angers me not because Trump does not care about Palestinian, because I never thought he would, and I know that this was going to turn this way. But I think to play with people's emotions in such a violent way, and to play with people who are desperate to preserve their heritage and their lineage and their families and human beings, and for you to just be like, yeah, this is just another trick of my sleeve, another pawn in an election game, is just the most disgusting thing. And it enraged me from a special place, because a lot of people were like, oh, Muslim Americans or Arab Americans who support Trump over this Palestine stuff are just engaging in anti Blackness and stuff like that. And there's nuanced conversation to have there. We can't deny that there is anti Blackness in both communities. But there's a lot of Black Muslims. So Black Muslims are suffer these issues in a particularly compounded way that need to be acknowledged. But also, I am not willing and wanting, but we are at a place where we have to show people grace when we have created a system where we speak of lesser of two evil that didn't seem like an option for them. So they had to go with something, they had to go with the unknown, because it wasn't even a lesser of two evil situation. Like Biden was treacherous and terrible
Right.
for Palestinians. So it's like Do I keep more of the same, or do I try to take a chance and hope? I don't think that folks who voted for Trump solely on Palestine as a deciding issue did so thinking, oh, he's the best person ever and he has the highest level of morals. I think it was kind of an act of desperation. That's what I'm hoping. I mean, it's not, it doesn't have to be true, but that's what I'm hoping.
Right.
And because of that, I'm very angry for them, because this is one of many, many issues that Americans are dealing with. And he could have just been like, okay, this could have been my concession. Like, I think it's more than abundantly clear that Palestine is becoming a very serious issue for American voters. And you
Mm.
could have just been like, okay, let me speak to Netanyahu and let him know there ain't no weapons coming his way. Like, spit in people's face like this so early on. He couldn't wait. My God. Anyway, let me stop my fucking rant because I'm pissed. You see how calm I stayed? I didn't yell.
You
This is
did. I'm
when
very proud of you.
you know, but this is when you know this is coming from a real deep place. Are you mad about anything this week?
I'm gonna start with the obvious one. We've read about the plane crash, and I think the main
DEI hire
that's,
allegations?
that's what I'm pissed about. Just because I'm seeing how people are running with it, and it's always linked to black, but then seeing how, for example, what's Abbott, right, out of Texas, who is a benefactor of DEI, is out here introducing new bills in Texas, and it's become like an echo chamber of let's work on ending whatever in their mind they think DEI is. But I think what pisses me off the most is that there's so many people on board that benefit from DEI that don't realize like it's coming for them too. Right? I was reading somewhere that the biggest benefactors of DEI are white women. Right. So I was talking to Gail, my therapist, about this. I seem to be more in control of my emotions this time around because I feel like I was a hot fucking mess last election, and to the point where it was like detrimental to me. But I think it also had to do with like where I was working and that kind of stuff. There's just so much, so much. And for this man to have no compassion for the families, to be out here slandering these people the way he has, it's just also disgusting. It's, yeah, it's too much.
You mentioned the trigger word. Abbott is a trigger word for me.
It is, it is. And we talked about him before.
The minute you say Abbott, you done piss me off. But I'm not going to talk about this damn clown today. But I would say something as well to the plane crash that also caught my attention, right? It's how important it is more than ever for the Trump administration in order to have a successful 4 years and build a legacy of racism and white supremacy and ignorance in this country, it is absolutely pivotal for the Trump administration to continue in the lineage of what they have started and dismantle the Department of Education.
Mm,
We must continue to create generations of ignorant people if this is
right.
going to be the propaganda we are pushing. The tweets and the analysis that these men have offered are so simple minded that literally, I think if I went downstairs and grabbed a pile of rocks, they would offer me something more complex.
Mm,
The problem that exists in America, and this is where I want to like go off and maybe go a little educational and recommend that people read some books, right? Particularly some books about the propaganda of the American dream and the making of the American middle class. And I can offer some recommendations like by dropping them in the comments or something like that. Is that America is a country that was built upon a concept that does not exist in society, right?
mm,
Okay. There is no such thing as an endless stream and endless opportunity at rags to riches. Every white man in America think they can become Donald Trump. And every white man in America cannot realize that this actualization to becoming a billionaire is not created by others. Then we have to create subgroups and subsets of people to blame as to why they are not there. And this is why it's harmful to teach ideologies around endless possibilities and endless wealth and endless things without really creating a system where we analyze what creates endless wealth, right? What creates these systems. The white Americans who are farmers find themselves thinking that they are to be able to relate more to Donald Trump than to Central American farmers like themselves. This is the gift of the uneducated narrative, right? Because we have stripped the idea of media as a tool for accurate education, then we create systems where people think that I, as a Haitian immigrant, who is a woman who works every day, who lives with disabilities, who goes through a lot of struggle despite some of my privileges, I am more of a threat than the person whose wealth exists at your expense. You need to remain poor as a white farmer. You need to remain in the struggle as a lower to poor middle class white person in order for Donald Trump to be rich.
Mm.
But he also needs to make you believe that he's not the reason why that this is happening,
It's a DEI.
right? So because we have created the scapegoat, we need to maintain the propaganda by never allowing people to educate themselves about it. Because the day that poor white people realize that they have more in common with Central American farmers, with Haitian immigrants, with Guatemalan immigrants, with hardworking everyday people, and decide to flip the thing on their head, it's over. There's a reason why we have not seen any more hearings with Luigi. There's a reason why Trump has spent a fucking week, if not weeks, talking about so many issues and dragging them on. But they quickly, the rich people quickly drop the United Healthcare CEO murder when they realized that there was a potential for a unification across groups. There's a reason why we are no longer seeing this parading of Luigi as this hardcore murderer. Us humanizing him as being the most extreme voice of the struggle was something they were not ready for. That's
Correct.
why they no longer want you to be able to have TikToks telling you the ways in which United Healthcare is harmful. Because for as long as Luigi remained in the public narrative, it was never going to be about this cold hearted killer. It was always going to be about all the ways in which he was justified in hating what has become of the healthcare system at your expense. Please understand your ignorance is required. So if you want to stay ignorant, that your business. But that's it. I'm not gonna say nothing else.
Your ignorance is required.
Correct. There
Well,
is no way that this machine will continue to work and remain effective if we educate ourselves about class struggles and the ways in which we are more united and similar in our desires to overthrow the ruling class. You have to stay ignorant. You have to. Because if we read, it's a problem.
mm,
If we educate ourselves, it's a problem. We have to stay ignorant.
if that weren't true, then they wouldn't work so hard to try to ban books
And the
specifically.
Department of Education and DEI. Because I don't know if you realize that, and a lot of people realize that when DEI was limited in scope to police brutality, they were not asking us to ban books about Black people. It's when DEI started to evolve and talk about systems of oppression beyond race, and talk about the compounded ways in which racialized capitalism has hurt literally every American except white billionaires. That they no longer like DEI. DEI got too radical. When it was like, please don't shoot the black man in broad daylight, they let us have that. They let us have that.
Now that we have cameras,
Yeah, they let us have that because they were like, well, there will never be a time where our 400 years of propaganda portraying the police as a good thing could be overthrown by these rowdy young folks saying the
right?
police is bad. It's when the analysis behind the police as an institutional power was a fuel for capitalism that resulted in the murder of not just black people, disabled people, poor people. It was when we started to make the connection between the police as a violent entity and capitalism. That's when it became a problem. When DEI turned to books rather than emotions, that's when it became a problem.
Mm.
When we stopped crying and started organizing, that's when DEI became a problem.
I was reading more into not this Yahoo coming over here, being invited by Trump, and I was reading NPR, and it's interesting to me because they're still writing from a perspective of the war began, the war,
There's no war.
when thousands of Hamas led militants stormed into southern Israel on October 7th, 2023. That's when it began.
There's so many things wrong with this, but this is the thing that I would say. And I have like so much respect for the media
Mm.
and for people who once upon a time I believed were legitimate voices in the advocacy for Jewish folks and against anti Semitic rhetoric. I lost a lot of respect for folks because of what happened when Elon Musk did the Nazi salute, and to see organizations and people who ultimately justified their hatred for Palestinian
Yeah, we didn't even address that. We didn't even address that.
of like pro preservation of Jewish heritage, identity, culture, and religion, just completely dismiss the fact that this man did a Nazi salute on TV in broad daylight. I lost so much respect because what we cannot do, and issues are complex, we cannot deny that Jewish folks have suffered a lot of hatred, particularly within American society and in Europe and beyond. Like,
Mm.
these are facts. Like, anti Semitism is a fact, right? I'm going to go back to what I said. Pain and emotions without education sometimes lead us to make very extreme decisions. So, even though I was extremely appalled by the reality that a lot of people who had invested so much of their life's work fighting anti Semitism turned to be genocide deniers and making excuses for the way the Israeli government, very important, Israeli government, not Jewish folks, Israeli government has treated Palestinians. I hoped that this was rooted in an emotional response. But now I'm realizing that it's not rooted in an emotional response. For some folks, it is rooted in white
Mm.
supremacy. The way in which you contorted yourselves like a little fidget toy to excuse this man's behavior. When he did that on TV, I said, we are doomed. People would choose whiteness at any cost. That was like, he white, but when y'all rightfully roasted Kanye West, Kyrie Harving, is that his name? Louis
Irving.
Farrakhan. Those are people that I, as a black person, have had very strong things to say about because of their inherent anti-Semitism. Louis Farrakhan consistently preaches things that I think are abominable. Like I spoke very strongly about the things that Kyrie said, Kanye said, a lot of folks have said out of ignorance, but y'all didn't have half of that heat. I mean, the Anti Defamation League had nothing to say about Elon Musk, but wrote a whole book about Kanye West. My God. Kanye is a bigger threat to you in your mind, Anti Defamation League, than Elon Musk, who is sitting in the White House? Okay.
Mm.
Some of y'all, we're clocking y'all. We're clocking y'all for real.
I'm actually going to their anti.
Hold on.
They did a post on it.
What?
The Anti Defamation League.
On Instagram?
Yeah,
Oh, girl, that post, that watered down nonsense.
it is watered down. And actually, it didn't even have to do with the motion that he did. It was a tweet. I just sent it to you.
Also, did you peep the date of the response?
Right. It's like 3 days later. Right.
Fucking joke if I've ever seen one.
Ah. Oh my
I
god.
am so hungry. Let me go get some food, girl.
So we're really doing this in the middle of the recording.
Who's gonna stop us, boo?
Period. Period, Pookie.
I mean, y'all said y'all wanted a food series, right?
Is this what our podcast has turned into?
We could.
Oh, 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 oh. So I guess bottom line for the next 4 years,
Oh,
we got to do what we got to do to take care of ourselves
sure.
because
Like we're doing right now. You know, we were recording and realized the girls are hungry. And since this is a podcast about the fat girlies, you know, when the fatties gotta eat, the fatties gotta.
period, eat, Pookie. Because no, we're not doing this for the next 4 years.
Yeah. Also, another thing that I did want to say also um, is I know I said I would work really hard to not say I told you so. But
Here she goes. Here she goes.
where the economic policies at, y'all? Where's the money I was gonna have in your pocket?
The eggs that were gonna go down.
Oh, with the tariff that he's putting on everybody and their mama, and y'all about to see some things, honey. Y'all about to see some things. I don't know what to tell y'all.
I was reading an article the other day that said like the comedy of him referencing eggs being the lowest they'll ever be under his administration and how they've gone to the highest they've ever been in the last I don't know how many years.
But did you see that Canada responded to his tariff thing by saying they are imposing 25% tariff on American goods?
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. Did you see
You
how
know you fucked up when you're an American president and you got beef with Canada. Canada, we never got beef with Canada.
nobody? Canada is like,
But particularly Americans, we never have beef with Canada.
hmm. No, can we talk about um how Mexico, the Mexican president responded to
Oh,
him?
oh, she ready.
I love her.
She is ready.
In her weepy outfit sewn by indigenous women of the region. I am here for her.
Correct. She's not here to play.
Mm-mm.
And this is a problem, right?
Or the Colombian president, love.
Because While y'all plan the last 4 years plotting to put ignorance back in y'all leadership, other countries have been looking for competency. So y'all looking more clownish than ever.
Correct. That part. That part.
It's almost sad. It's almost sad to see the way Mexico is handling us. Well, not me, handling y'all, because me and Mexico, we can never have beef. I mean, as you know, Mary, I might not go nowhere, but at least once a year, I'm gonna be in Mexico.
That's true.
At least
That's true.
this is my second home. I love Mexico. I love Mexican culture. I love everything about Mexico. And guess what? Your girl gonna be in Mexico this year again. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She is going to
Mhm.
Mexico. She's always there. She's there. That's part of the routine. That's part of the rotation. Mexico and what else, right? Mexico plus.
Period.
So I could never have beef with Mexico.
I
I could
already told
have
you you
beef
gotta go to
with China,
Guatemala.
but not me. Huh?
I already told you gotta go to Guatemala.
Yo, I was seeing super affordable flights to Guatemala. I would love to do a trip there.
Really? Around this time?
hmm
It's gonna get back expensive for
Probably summertime.
no for Easter.
Well, makes sense. Makes sense. But yeah.
Our Easter celebrations are big.
Oh, I know. Oh, I know. The other thing that I was thinking about in terms of like this administration, besides the fact that yeah, I don't got no economic plan
Mm.
still.
What
Uh,
was his response? He has an idea of a plan.
yeah. Besides that, remember how he said he didn't know what Project 2025 was? So why everything he done so far is straight from there?
Mm.
Hmm.
Make it make sense.
You know
That
what's the only tragic part about all of this is that what this man and his acolyte are going to do in the next 4 years, it's going to take generations to fix.
correct. 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 It sure is.
Some of it we don't even know if it's going to be reversible, like things relating to the planet and the environment. Some of it we might never be able to fix. Now check that. But Mary, are you mad about anything else?
I feel like we named 50 million things. I'm sure we can
I
keep
mean,
going, but
200 executive orders in counting. Yeah,
that part.
it's a lot to be mad about.
Mm. But wrapping it up, let's go into lawyers in the news.
Yeah. So this week, our lawyer in the news is an exceptional woman that we unfortunately learned about through tragedy, right? It is Juris Doctor, Professor of Law, Kiah Higgins, who unfortunately passed away because she was one of the passengers aboard the American Airlines flight that was involved in the very, very tragic accident with a Black Hawk helicopter this week. She's a graduate of Harvard Law who had dedicated her life and her stellar intellect to the civil rights.
All right.
Very, very important cause, very needed in this country, particularly in this time of unconstitutional executive orders and barbaric um, applications of the law. So it is a great loss for the legal community, particularly for us Black folks. It is a great loss for future law students who will not get a chance to be taught by such a stellar scholar. It is a great loss for Black people all around, and to lose her so close to Black History Month,
Mhm.
when Black history is under such a violent attack, and so young as well. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful young woman, just with so wonderful of a future ahead of her. Um, this is a loss to the legal community. So may she rest in peace. And we're speaking about her as the lawyer in the news, but that does not mean that the other passengers didn't matter. Everybody on that flight mattered. I'm sure that they leave behind a legacy of great accomplishments and greatness. And even if they don't, we are valuable because we are.
Period.
Everybody deserved to have landed at the airport from such a short flight from Kansas, and this should not have happened. And the fact that we have turned into a nation that uses everything to sensationalize things and don't engage in compassion is a disgusting thing. So, may everybody who was on board rest in peace, particularly this wonderful, wonderful attorney. Mary, anything else from Lawyers in the News?
I think you said it all, particularly that she was about to start a teaching position at Howard. And so these students have missed out on that, but also, this was something that she was working towards, how, ultimately she got so close to it. So, like you said, we just send respect and condolences to all the families that are experiencing loss at this time.
Yeah. I think I when I think of her and the kind of legacy she leaves behind and the things that folks are saying about her, I think of a couple of people, and one of them wasn't my professor. Was your professor in law school? You were so excited about this professor that you had, I think, who was into hip hop and race theory and the law, and even Professor Lawson. I think about the ways in which Black law professors, even professors who teach us what we don't want to be as lawyers, like Professor Lawson, it's so important in law school because it's very rare that you see your passions and things reflected in somebody. And we don't have
Right.
enough civil rights lawyers. And these students were going to see a role model that they like. Like I remember in law school, because I was a community organizer who came from organizing around race, how disappointed I was that like Professor Lawson's race analysis was limited to her hair. And nevertheless, as a Black girl, seeing a Black professor made a difference. Like, I can sit here post law school, having been an attorney for over a decade now, having deepened my knowledge of race theory and realizing that Professor Lawson was a good fit for the school at which she taught. But I can't deny the fact that knowing that she was there made a difference, not just for me as a Black girl, but even from other law students of color whose racial or ethnic groups were not represented. I mean, when I went to St. Thomas, there was one Latina, and she didn't teach many classes. And there were no professors who, from my knowledge, were Muslims. There were no other brown professors besides the Latina professor. There were several subgroups that were not represented, but just seeing this Black woman who was not yet another white man, it made a difference. It meant something to South Asian students, to Latina students, to Black students. I was in law school doing the Trayvon Martin trial, having a race and law professor talking about hair. And is discrimination on the basis of hair real? Yes. Should it be addressed? Yes. Is it systemic? Yes. Is this a semester worth of law school classes? Hell fuck no. Because what you have to realize is that texturism is a consequence of racism. It is not a form of it. It's a consequence of it. Because we have created a system that is so anti-Black, we dissect Blackness in every little bit of it. So yeah, somebody with 4C hair and somebody with 4A hair, or somebody even with 3 hair. Like I don't even know which curl pattern I have. I just know that I don't have the coarsest one, and I know that that comes with a layer of privilege. But that layer of privilege is not inherent to the hair. It is the fact that that hair is linked to a European heritage and the European standard of beauty. So, yeah, if you actually start people about anti-blackness and white supremacy, you wouldn't have to talk so goddamn much about your hair, Professor Lawson. Because as a lighter skinned woman with 4C hair, you could talk about hair, but you could never talk about colorism and the things that benefited you. But I digress. I digress. Because how you gonna have a class about race and the law talking about your hair, but not colorism? Girl, girl, the fact that you're thin, the fact that you have several European features like small lips and narrow nose, girl. But this is not what today's podcast is about, is it?
Mm. Mm, 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 mm.
But Professor Lawson does need to be read about that raggedy ass class that she made people. Law school is expensive. Law school is expensive. You have people out here paying top dollar for bottom of the barrel ass racial analysis that doesn't include the ways in which gender is racialized, colorism.
And all I keep hearing is, I am not my hair. I am not my. What is it,
All
NDRE?
my stellar analysis, that's what you get, bitch.
Listen, I had a fantastic professor, Tibbs. His class was race and the law. Outstanding. Outstanding.
Right.
And that's the professor that you were talking about. He, it was funny because the conversations that he brought to the classroom were not being had at a larger scale at St. Thomas. There were times that I had to have the conversation with him where I was like, you're not being received as you thought, because you thought Miami was, what is it? The
Melting pot.
tossed salad that, race
Melting
was
pot. Please don't say tossed salad.
the what?
Say melting pot.
Melting pot, melting pot,
Tossed
melting pot.
salad takes my mind somewhere else.
But there's an analysis that was done that it's actually not a melting pot. It's more of a salad where you're still able to pick out the tomato, pick out the lettuce, pick out.
Mary, I don't like the expression tossing salad. That's all. I'm not using that. I'm not using that.
Okay,
I'm
fine. You
not
take
using
it
that.
down.
Huh?
Um,
And friends who are listening, if you don't know what that is, Google it.
don't don't Google it. But I had to have the conversations with him about what Miami white meant, and how even though in front of him he saw someone who was white passing, or maybe like we would identify them as a brown person, they didn't identify themselves as brown. And so why he was having so much resistance from students in class that weren't understanding of what he was bringing to the table. And after a while he was like, okay, I see what you mean.
Man, I think, and also I think like the most important thing that you have to talk about is that regarding the law school that we went to, the true test of decency is whether or not you're able to remain there. Whether you're fired or ran out of this place, if you cannot last there, it's probably because you have passed the decency test. So yeah, I was not surprised when you told me he was gone. A
Yes,
true shame for future law students,
correct.
because the kind of content, information, complex analysis that you told me that he was bringing to the classroom is exactly what people going into the legal field need to understand. People who might become prosecutors, people who might become public defenders, people who might engage in areas of the law where race is extremely important, and to
Right.
understand the ways in which race operates in this country and in this legal system is extremely important. So I'm not surprised he's gone. I'm not surprised he's gone at all.
I mean, all we have to do is look at how many more professors of color are left.
But I could talk about it for days.
So we have to wrap it up. So this week in Learning Out Loud, we find that there's already so many resources out there in regards to what to do if ICE comes, what to do if your civil rights are violated. And so rather than just making this a one thing learning out loud, we're going to be putting you on to pages you can follow that already do a good job at giving you information in case for the next 4 years you face anything that you may need a civil rights lawyer, immigration, and so on. Alex, what are those pages?
I would say, folks, grab your phones, get to work. I would say the number one thing that you have to understand is just as we at this podcast don't substitute your personal lawyer and don't offer legal advice, neither do these organizations. So, what you're getting is generalized knowledge that might differ based on your particular case. So, don't go out here and say, Alex said, the ACLU said. It's not going to happen. It did not happen, but it is good to be informed. So one of the pages that I would tell y'all to follow on Instagram, most of these resources are from Instagram, but they have the same handle across platforms. So whatever platform you're more comfortable with, you can find them. I have double checked that they exist across most of the major social media platforms. ACLU underscore nationwide is the handle for ACLU National, which is, of course, the largest ACLU and has the most detailed and up to date Know Your Rights information and updates about the ways in which your rights will undoubtedly be affected by this administration. On the immigration front, you can also follow United We Dream. They do have very bright, beautiful, and knowledgeable information about immigration. If you are based in Florida, you could follow Florida Immigrant for the Florida Immigrant Coalition. Great resources there. For Black immigrant specific resources, we have the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, commonly referred to as BAJI, BAJI, Black Alliance for Just Immigration, on the internet under the handle Insta Baji. And you can also follow Southern Poverty Law Center. That's SPL Center on all platforms. SPL Center, other great resource, particularly when it comes to areas of civil rights. One other thing I want to plug in is for youth resources, LGBTQ plus youth resources. We know personally, because of the work we've done with them, that the Drew Project, Drew Project, is putting out a resource guide for LGBTQ plus youth. The Trevor Project, also on the internet as Trevor Project, their handle, great resources for LGBT plus youth. And again, because we will only make it through this through resistance. If you need Know Your Rights information because you're a protester, we recommend that you follow on the internet the National Lawyers Guild. Guild is GUILD on the internet as National Lawyers Guild on all platform for Know Your Rights information for people who are protesters. At this dangerous juncture, we do recommend that if you are engaging in protest, you want to be a US citizen. It's particularly if you're engaging in civil disobedience, you want to be a US citizen, but you definitely want to be documented because we know that our undocumented siblings are under attack. So please protect yourself. Those are the pages. We will be putting them in the description box for this episode. I'm going to run through them one more time. ACLU Nationwide, United We Dream, Trevor Project, Drew Project, Insta Baji, SPL Center, and the National Lawyers Guild.
Thank you,
She
Alex.
did her homework, y'all.
Now, who is she?
May I do one last plug-in?
You may.
If you are somebody who's into supporting radical black work, you could also follow Movement for Black Lives and Love for Black Lives if you are an attorney.
Love it. And it's all that we have for today. It was slow and steady, but we got through it.
It was so because I was hungry. I was
Girl.
like, got my food in. This is what I like with y'all. This is like being at home. Y'all understand the needs of a fatty.
And surprisingly, this is the first time that we do it.
This is the first time that you do it. You even called me out one time because I threw something in my mouth. But I think at that time it might not have been food. It might have been A supporting substance.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Since you wanted to bring it up, I was like, when is that? And then I remembered.
Because a supporting substance is what we're gonna call it. Mind your own
Who,
business.
who are we not to accept support? Amen.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I need some support right now dealing with this nonsense y'all put me through with this White House man. But
But we thank you for logging in, listening to us rant a bit. Follow us across all platforms. L Out Loud Podcast on Instagram and L Out Loud Podcast at gmail.com. And until next time, bye.